Hi! In part 1 of this episode, we covered adding virtual systems and components to our VS Next environment. By nature, CLI workflows involve more details, and so in the second part of this episode, we will complete the adding routines and finish with removing components and other routines necessary for getting our VS Next environment up and running. Going back to our early episode about the terms and expressions, there is another vital virtual component we haven't created yet, the V-link or warp link. To add a virtual link, we need to run the following command: add vsnext virtual-link virtual-gateway and press tab. This command will return a list of available VS machines to choose from. In this video, it's our favorite number 10. Now we need to choose which virtual switch to connect to it with the following command. Type add vsnext virtual-link virtual-gateway 10 virtual-switch 2. Now we need an ID, same as the VS and vSwitch, so type add vsnext virtual-link virtual-gateway 10 virtual-switch 2 warp-ID. And choose a number for this logical interface, or auto if you are OK with the system assigning the ID. Over in the web UI, we can see the V-link was created, so let's open VS10 and see the interface we created in the gclish window. We can see warp 641 is connected to VS Next switch and the type is virtual link. Let's have a quick review of VS10, VS2 and VS1 interfaces. We can see which VS has V-link to our new VS switch we created, which interface linked to the management switch, how many interfaces each machine has, and more. And now, a recap on what we've done this far. We started by reviewing the interfaces of VS0. We then went on to create other virtual systems and their virtual switches and links. Now, let's go on with some other commands for VS Next environment management. Switching from one VS to another, or any other virtual component, is done by running the following command in expert mode. vsenv and the component ID in expert mode. vsenv1 will change to VS1. vsenv500 will take us into the management switch. Note the changes in the prompt. If you are lost or return to work after a break, the prompt will orient you as to where you are. On the screen, you can see the ifconfig command being executed and the updated environment index. And while we are in expert mode, a quick reminder as to what we can and can't do in the different shells. While we are in vSwitch, we cannot run gclish commands, as you can see in the error message on the screen. Let's return to VS0, from which we can manage the VS Next environment by running the following command: vsenv0, and perform some other actions. Moving interfaces using CLI requires to first disconnect the interfaces we want to move from its current virtual machine and then reconnect it to its new one when it becomes available. First, we need to return to gclish. Now run the following commands: set vsnext interfaces and press tab. You will get the list of available interfaces. For this example, we will be moving ETH4. Type set vsnext interfaces ETH4 virtual-system and press tab. You can see the list of our virtual systems and switches. Note the None option. We will get to it soon. If you run the following command with an ID number, set vsnext interfaces ETH4 virtual-system 1, the system will try to move the interface to this VS ID. But as you can see on the screen, it failed because we did not deactivate the interface first. So let's run the command in the correct sequence. First type set vsnext interface virtual-system none. The None option will deactivate ETH4, so now it will be available and can be moved to a different virtual system. Now, we use the same command, but this time with the ID of the virtual system we want to move ETH4 to. So now type set VSNext interfaces ETH4 virtual system 1. Let's exit into an expert mode. Then change the environment to VS1 by running the command we used earlier, vsenv1. And lastly, run ifconfig to see the interfaces of VS1. We can see that the interface ETH4 was added successfully. For our next action, let's take a look at the VS10 interfaces since we are in expert mode. As we saw in the beginning of this video, ETH3 belongs to VS10. Now run vsenv10 to change to VS10, and then run ifconfig to confirm that ETH4 is not in its interface list. Now let's go back to gclish so we can see how VS deletion works. To delete an existing virtual gateway, vSwitch or virtual link, we will use the same command and each time targeting the specific component we want to delete. We will start with deleting a virtual link. Run the following command: delete VSNext and press tab. This will return 3 options: virtual gateway, virtual switch, and virtual link. So we're choosing to delete a virtual link. Type the next command: delete VSNext, virtual-link, virtual-gateway, and press tab. You will get the numbers 0, 1, and 10 representing the IDs of the virtual gateways that we have. As we need to associate the virtual link deletion process with its VS, we choose 10 and continue. Type delete VSNext, virtual-link, virtual-gateway, 10, virtual-switch, and press tab. We now get back 500, which is the management link, and 2 that are both virtual switch IDs. We need to choose the switch we want to delete the virtual link with, which will be 2, and press enter. If we switch to the web UI, we can see the tasks table running the deletion process and its progress as well, until we get the finished disconnecting vlinks message in details and completed in status. Let's delete a virtual switch now. Run the following command: delete VSNext and press tab for the overall options. Running the following command, delete VSNext virtual-switch and pressing tab returns the virtual switches 2 and 500. We will choose ID 2 for the deletion. So type delete VSNext virtual-switch 2 options and press tab. At this point, we need to choose between 2 options: skip _ cp stop _ on _ delete and none. None will force a cp stop, which will stop the processes first and then start the deletion process, which is what we want. Continue with this command. By now, you know what choosing true means in this option. We will get a real-time progress of the deletion process. Type delete VSNext virtual-switch 2 options none wait -4 task true. Deletion process complete. We no longer have virtual switch 2. In the CLI, the process is done, and in the web UI, we can see in the tasks table we have a more detailed record of it. Last but not least is deleting a virtual system. We go back to the first command to retrieve the main option menu by typing delete VSNext and pressing tab. Then we choose to delete a virtual gateway. If you type the following command, delete VSNext virtual-gateway and press tab, you will get VS IDs 0, 1, and 10. We will choose VS10. So the command will be delete VSNext virtual-gateway virtual 10 options and press tab. And then decide whether we want to see the progress or not with the command delete VSNext virtual-gateway virtual 10 options none wait for task Let's choose false this time and follow the process on Web UI. You can see on the screen that we deleted VS10. This brings us to the end of this episode. After covering CLI configuration of VSX, join me in episode 7 where we do it one last time, but this time through direct API calls. Thank you for watching and see you in episode 7.